So I've just finished the Burroughs book, TheJob, interviews with Williams S. Burroughs, as interviewed by Daniel Odier. And I've done 2 videos on this already, but I hadn't finished the book and I was just starting on the last chapter called Academy 23. And that was a good chapter. But the whole book was good because although it was written in an interview form, um, it spliced in creative writing, short kind of bits of short stories and essays and things, as well as having some interview format. And I really don't like books in interview format, so the way they did it, it worked really, really well as a book in its own right. But it also worked very well, as I had hoped it would, as a kind of an intro to the whole corpus of works that is Burroughs' work. And I had said I'd only read The Naked Lunch. And for anybody who hasn't even read that, can I recommend I don't usually recommend movies of books, but David Cronenberg made a very good fist of The Naked Lunch. And Burroughs' stuff is very visual. And throughout this book, he talks about cut-ups and recordings, and he's talking about written cut-ups techniques used later by people, famously used by people like Bowie. But he's also discussing tape recordings for quite in depth. And this chapter, Academy 23, discusses that in depth as well, about how recordings are very important in this control society idea. And the control society is something that was taken up by the kind of philosopher, sociologist, if you like, Deleuze. And he worked it up into a whole sort of philosophy about the control society, but it was Burroughs writing about it that inspired him to do that. And a lot of the book is about these control mechanisms and the times that he was interviewed in, because the interviews span over a period of time in the 60s and 70s. It was a time of revolution within Western society. And he talks about that a lot. How do you get rid of some of the systems of control that are very corrupt and sort of deprogram yourself? So he's very interested in using creative means to do that, and discusses in this final chapter, Academy 23, how you could have a formal system for doing that. Now, really what he's doing is, and it's a feature of his writing, that Cronenberg really captured well in the film, that there's reality is kind of a springboard that Burroughs uses, but uses it as a springboard to take off from into kind of flights of the imagination and creative fictional flights that makes him very interesting as a writer, but very open as a thinker as well. So that just enriches his work, really. It wouldn't be, say, philosophically, it wouldn't be very rigorous or anything, but creatively, he's wonderful to read because he inspires you to really think about stuff like language. Calling it a virus, I did get to that bit in the book. There's more about that in this final chapter. And indeed, the final chapter ends on a really fantastic quote from him, which really shows what he's about. He's about deconstructing things and destroying the old in order to have a revolutionary new beginning, that where you're deprogrammed which is a bit of a pipe dream, really. And you're not really sure how seriously to take it, because he tends to take everything very far in his writing. But you can see that in this last quote, because he states, "To travel in space, you must learn to leave the old verbal garbage behind. God talk, priest talk, mother talk, family talk, love talk, party talk, country talk. You must learn to exist with no religion, no country, no allies. You must learn to see what is in front of you with no preconceptions." And he's very bleak, but it's a dark humor that he extends throughout all his work, and it can be very vicious sometimes, and very it ends on a positive note, I think, the book, but it can be bleak and repulsive at times, because he is exploring boundaries of things as well. And, he possibly had bleak start in life, but you could see even on the cover image taken by his friend Allen Ginsberg that he's rarely without a look of disgust on his face for humanity. And yet he has this incredible belief that if you dump everything, that you can start again, which I think is a good reason to read him, because he's not just bleak and he's not just repulsive, and he has a lot of redeeming features, even though I did point out he was sort of a reprobate in a lot of ways. So I would recommend him as somebody important to read, for writers certainly, and just for readers as well. And this is a great introduction, this book.